So you let that happen to the banks, and then you let General Motors and you let Chrysler go bankrupt, because obviously they've been on the wrong track for years. There's a $16 million capacity to produce cars in the United States, and there's a demand for cars in the United States of 11 or $12 million. That's obviously too much capacity. And to try to keep those companies afloat by taxing us or inflating the money so our money is worth less to keep people afloat who made mistakes is just to encourage people to make mistakes and to spend good money after bad money. So what you do is you reorganize the economy by wiping out the people that no longer producing what anybody wants, and you reorganize the banks to get them back to a smaller level where they can be less involved in speculation and hopefully more involved in lending. Okay? And then you need to continue free trade, which is very important for the United States with a lot of exports, and very important for the cost of all we goods, because we buy a lot of imported inexpensive goods. And that if we go to protectionism to stop the flow of free trade, we're going to produce a even worse worldwide recession or depression. We're going to do the same thing that the Republicans did in 1929-30, which helped bring on the Great Depression and prolong it, and we don't want to do that. So our program is free trade, and so we're going to then allow people and companies and governments
Ed, I can't hear you.
to live within. Huh?
I can't hear you very well.
Okay, I have a little sore throat tonight.
Oh,
so I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that.
We're going to let the people, what people need to do, including myself, and lots of people here, and lots of our relatives and friends, they need to pay down their debt, because lots of people are over leveraged and have got too much debt, and people need to reduce their debt, right? And companies need to reduce their debt, and governments at almost all levels need to reduce their debt. And so that this program allows and encourages people to do that. And then the other parts of the program are not to have any new social programs, because the most dishonest, they may believe that printing all this money is going to help the economy, but they can't. Thank you very much. They can't possibly believe that all of their new programs are good for the economy. They have massive new programs to federalize education. They spend hundreds of billions of dollars for education, to federalize and control healthcare, and to spend perhaps $1 trillion on healthcare over the next 10 years. They have a program to cap and trade carbon credits, which they want to put into effect right away. And it may be that carbon has to be reduced, but to start a major program in the middle of a recession, of a depression, is the wrong thing to do. And so that program is bad. They claim they're going to create millions of new jobs through green energy. And green energy is going to be twice as expensive as carbon energy. And it's going to come when carbon energy gets to be too expensive. And to some extent, cap and trade will make carbon energy more expensive, but it's going to do it in a shock, and it's going to be a shock to the economy, and it's going to throw tens of thousands of people out of work. So that their social program of education and healthcare and alternative energy and cap and trade carbon emissions are all programs that will make the economy worse, that will make unemployment higher, and they can't believe that that's good for the economy. What they're trying to do is to take advantage of the emergency feeling and the disaster, and we've got to do something. So here we are, we're doing something, we're going to have this new health program, and miraculously by spending more money on health, we're going to spend less money on health. And nobody can honestly believe that, and they can't believe it. So what they're doing, politicians always try to say what people want to hear. because they want people to elect them. Most people don't understand the issues. Most people never have been to any kind of political meeting. Most people can't remember who their congressman was. Half the people in the United States can't name the 2 senators from their own state. So what politicians want to do is to say nice things, because people are never going to understand really what the issues are, which is just part of the whole democratic system that we think is the best system, but it's not a perfect system. And so the Obama administration can't believe that their program, they may believe their economic program has some validity, but the rest of their program, they can in no way believe it's legitimate to solve the economic problem. And what they're really trying to do is pass their own ideological program on the backs of the unemployed. And it's a vicious program against the people who are in the worst shape today. And so I think that people ought to take the kid gloves off with respect to Obama and his integrity and his honesty, and say it's the biggest, it's a real terrible scam, and you have to know it's not the truth. So, one, you reject his program in favor of a free market program to adjust the economy to the real needs of the economy, and you say absolutely no to the rest of the program, particularly now in a bad recession. And so that leaves us, I think, with a program that's better for the economy, better for the things that really count to people, and is completely in line with our own image of what's right to do. And it also builds up self-reliance, because although we are a political party, part of the basis of our political philosophy is that people ought to take care of themselves, that people by and large can take care of themselves, and that government's job is to make it easy for people to take care of themselves. That's why we've got the cops and the courts, and that's why we have other props of government, is to enable people by and large to take care of themselves. And so this is a program that encourages people to take care of themselves, and it penalizes particularly the companies who didn't take care of themselves and didn't act as good stewards of the assets they had. So I think it's a very libertarian program. I think it's a program that is good for the economy. I think it's good for the psyche of the American people. And it's completely in line with our principles. So that's the economic program. It's such a bleak picture of the economic program and what Obama's doing that I feel sort of duty-bound to raise a little bit of light. Obama has, on the civil liberties issues, some points that are pretty decent. One is he claims he's not going to raid medical marijuana distributors in states where medical marijuana is legal. However, they just, after they announced that, they raided a medical marijuana station in San Francisco, so that they're not even doing that minimum. But that is an opening, and there's going to come a time when marijuana is going to be legalized. And maybe there's going to come a time when harder drugs are going to be legalized. And so this is an opening, and we shouldn't badmouth Obama on that. You know, we should try to promote that concept any way we can, because bit by bit we're winning that battle. And in 10 years we may win it with marijuana, and 20 years we may win it with harder drugs. And when we win it, it's going to be an absolutely phenomenal thing, because it ought to throw half of the people who are now in prison in the United States out of prison because they were there for drug violations. And I'm very conscious about what the drug war, my wife comes from Mexico, I go to Mexico every year, and the drug war is an absolute disaster for Mexico. Like 12,000 people a year or something like that are killed in Mexico.
The Mexican government is rated most at risk for...
Yeah, and I mean there are shootings every day. They're shooting the police left and right. There's so much drug money, and Mexican civil service is not paid very well. Mexican civil service has a history of corruption, and with all this money, they can buy their way and shoot their way into all sorts of terrible things in Mexico, and it's a disaster for the country, an absolute disaster for the country.